Back here on Weather Command, it's the first day of the Atlantic hurricane season, and this time of year also brings another threat along the coast. We've got coastal erosion in North Carolina. Those coastal storms, they really can take a serious toll, especially along vulnerable beach towns. Last month, we've seen it, an oceanfront home in Rodanthe on North Carolina's Outer Banks. It was deliberately torn down as officials worked to stay ahead of rapidly worsening beach conditions. And that threat isn't letting up. Since 2020, we've had more than 30 beach homes in Rodanthe and video that we have here in Buxton that have collapsed into the Atlantic, swept away by a combo of severe weather, pounding surf, and that shifting shoreline.
We want to welcome in North Carolina Governor Josh Stein. Appreciate your time this morning on Weather Command, Governor. It is the first day of hurricane season, as Stephen mentioned. And the challenge for states like yours, for North Carolina, is that you not only have to watch the coastline for a landfalling system, but also to the west, as Hurricane Helene taught us. So we do want to talk about that as well, right? But let's go ahead and get to the coastline first, because as Stephen showed us, homes have been lost for various reasons with the erosion of the coastline. But one of more than 24 homes in Rodanthe and Buxton since 2020 that have been lost to these issues. That's been a persistent challenge for your state.
Yes, Marissa and Stephen, great to be with you. And it's exceptionally heartbreaking for those property owners. Basically, the sea is rising and it's hitting the Outer Banks especially hard. I have written to Congress. There's a bill that our local congressman there, Greg Murphy, has introduced to allow the National Flood Insurance Program to pay a homeowner to destroy their home before it falls into the ocean. When it falls into the ocean, it creates incredible environmental damage up and down the coast. So we know which homes are most at risk. And unfortunately, right now, the homeowner has to wait until their home is destroyed in order to get compensation, and that makes no sense. I've also written the Park Service, because they have some discretionary funding that could be used to move or take down these homes that we know are at risk to a rising sea. The key thing is we need to have a strong state-federal partnership, and that's true out in Western North Carolina as well, where we're working very hard. We're grateful for every federal dollar we've received, but we need a lot more support from the federal government to help us recover from Hurricane Helene.
And Governor, I know that your time in office has just been a slice of this issue, and we don't want to spend too much time on the Outer Banks, but every time a home falls into the Atlantic, we have a conversation here at Fox Weather. It's like, what could officials do to fix the problem? And it's encouraging to know that there's some work by your office going into it. But could you just lay it out plainly for us? Why are homes then just collapsing into the Atlantic and nothing is being done? It's that partnership, it sounds like, that's been difficult.
Well, we need federal action to change the rules and regulations surrounding the National Flood Insurance Program. But what's happening is because the climate is getting substantially hotter, and that's having the sea level rise at a substantial level, and the water is warmer, which means that even when the water is at the same level, the storm surge is coming through with much greater frequency and intensity, even when there's not a hurricane. So this is the world in which we live now, and we have to build a resilient response that can acknowledge that the world has changed, that the seas are rising, the temperature is hotter, and we have to address carbon pollution.
Yeah, a recognition that the climate has been changing and that we need to do stuff to protect that.
Yeah, I think, and it's challenging too, because here we go again. We have an area of low pressure that's looking like it'll develop far off the coastline of the Outer Banks, but enough to bring an onshore wind. You even take a look at last hurricane season, your first hurricane season as governor for North Carolina. We had a tropical system. It did get a name. It was Chantal that did bring that onshore wind. But you look at the Outer Banks, we didn't have a landfalling hurricane. We had major hurricanes passing to the east, but it was that continued onshore flow. So I imagine it becomes difficult in messaging for folks when you don't have a landfalling system, but still impacts at the coastline.
Yeah, we were really fortunate last year in that most of the hurricanes, to your point, they stayed to the east, off the Outer Banks. The Outer Banks is the part of the East Coast that really sticks out into the Atlantic. But even though those storms didn't have direct landfall, they created incredible storm surge, which led to a number of homes falling into the ocean. It led to repeated instances of overwash of North Carolina Highway 12. And that creates problems in and of itself because it turns communities that are connected to the mainland into islands with no way to get supplies or get connected back to the mainland. So this changing weather system in which we live is creating real issues. We have to be prepared. We have to build a more resilient future, and we have to do everything we can to reduce the amount of carbon pollution that is fueling these heavy active seas.
And speaking of what that extreme weather can do to a state, from the Outer Banks to Western North Carolina, Governor, and Hurricane Helene, it was a monster, and particularly catastrophic in North Carolina. I know since you've been in office, there have been efforts of getting money, but an important note that the federal government has not appropriated any funds to Helene recovery since the last Congress. People still need help. So what is being done for the residents of Western North Carolina? And I think we look at it, we hope that another storm like that doesn't happen. But as we understand, it only takes one, as we saw with Helene.
Yeah, from your mouth to God's ears, Stephen. The storm was incredibly devastating. It was over a year and a half ago at this point. It was late September of 2024. 108 lives were lost, $60 billion in damage, which is just a massive impact. That was more than 3 times bigger than any storm that's ever hit in North Carolina, which historically has been in the eastern part of the state. So the region is still recovering. What's great is it is back for business. What you're showing right there is the River Arts District in Nashville, and it looks nothing like that. It's beautiful, it's vibrant. A lot of shops are reopened, great bars, restaurants, craft stores. So what we encourage is for people all around the country to come vacation this summer in Western North Carolina because they are open for business. They are back in business. And the best thing that individuals can do to help people in Western North Carolina is to just come and enjoy the natural beauty. You will have an incredible time. And just by being there, you'll be supporting the economy, staying in a hotel, going to a restaurant, going to a store and buying some gifts. These are things that will help Western North Carolina get back on its feet. We are grateful for every federal dollar we've received to help us recover, whether that's infrastructure, housing, business assistance, local government budgets. But we need so much more help. I have an appropriation request before this administration and this Congress. I'm hoping that they act on it. As you noted, the last appropriation that Washington made to help the people of Western North Carolina occurred in December of 2024. So it was the last Congress, the last administration. It's now time for this Congress and this administration to help us, help the people of Western North Carolina get back on their feet.
Well, as we wait for something to happen, I came across an interesting article, Governor. Not sure if you saw it, but a Business Insider did it. And they talked to a 72-year-old Floridian who made her way to your state, to North Carolina. Talk about hard-hit Western North Carolina. It was Asheville that she decided to settle in, and she loves it. Why did she leave Florida? Because insurance costs were going up. Property taxes were outrageously high. And I do wonder, with these crises, is that within your scope, making sure that North Carolina and the residents of North Carolina do not get ripped off by insurance, and also these threats of higher property taxes with natural disasters happening? You're making sure that your office, I would assume, is not going to have issues like this woman detailed in Florida.
Yeah, there's no question that housing costs are a concern in Western North Carolina, but frankly, all across the state, because we are the #1 state to which people from other states are moving, the #1 state in the country. So folks, the secret is out on how lovely North Carolina is to live and work and raise a family. But we have to make sure that we're producing enough housing to meet this incoming demand. Otherwise, when you don't have enough supply and more demand, prices go up. And what I want to make sure is that the people who live and work here can afford to stay here. So my office is working hard on trying to produce more housing. That's true in Western North Carolina, where there was already a shortage of affordable housing, but it's also true across the state.
Well, the conversation will be continuing, and hopefully this season we don't see much in the way of any activity for North Carolina, but it's important to be prepared. So we wait and we watch for it. Appreciate your time this morning, Governor Josh Stein of North Carolina. Thank you.
Stephen and Marissa, thank you.
All right.